Patrice Williams, the Community Development Manager / Interim Main Street Manager for the City of Douglasville. I'd like to thank each of you. As a matter of fact, let me say this. I'm excited and happy to see all these faces here. Obviously, those emails worked. We sent out many, several. So I'm excited to have you all here tonight. There's a lot we're going to cover, so I'm not going to talk long. But the purpose of this meeting is to talk about what we can do better or differently to help move the city forward. So at this time, we're going to call the Atlanta Regional Commission up, and we're going to hear from Jared.
All right, thank you, and excuse me, I just took a big bite of salad and now it's stuck there. Good evening, my name is Jared Lombard. I'm a planner at the Atlanta Regional Commission. Some of you look very familiar from the work you guys done over the comprehensive plan last summer and early fall. I promise this is not the same presentation, but you are going to see some familiar things. Just to give everyone a background on what the Atlanta Regional Commission is, we are one of 12 regional commissions in the state of Georgia. We provide a variety of services, including community development, aging services, research and data, and we've been around since 1947. We have different boundaries for some of our work we do. You are a part of the 10 county regional commission. That's those 10 core counties of the region, and that is around 4.2 million people. If we look at our largest area of planning that we deal with is 20 counties, and that's about 5.3 million residents. So one of the things about ARC, we really like data. It's one of our strong suits. And there's a lot of data out there. So does anyone have any idea what this graph shows? And Mayor Persons, you might have seen this, so you can't answer.
I can't cheat.
You can't cheat.
Is it the temperature?
That's a good idea. Okay, so really, this is the peak breakup periods on Facebook of when people break up on Facebook. And this is one of the things. You can see a lot of different trends, like when Christmas is, when Valentine's Day. But this is also, there's so much data around there. And one of the things we do at ARC is try to collect it and tell a story. And that's really why I'm here today, is really to kind of communicate the story about the region and the city of Douglasville. If you look, this is the Atlanta area. This is what was considered urbanized in 1950. It was just that core part of downtown and midtown. You can see how the area has grown. This would be 1960, 1970, 1980, 90, and 2010. So you can really see, Douglasville is now, 50 years ago wasn't really considered part of, the Atlanta metro region. Now you really are tied together both economically and also culturally as well. Just looking at some of the how does Atlanta stack up? The Atlanta urbanized area is the second largest urbanized area in terms of size in the United States, second only to New York. We're about 8th in population. So that, just to keep that in mind, we're a very large area that is considered Atlanta. That's probably came true last week during the snowstorm when everyone thought, Mayor Reed and the governor were all in charge of Atlanta, which they're not. If you look at other cities throughout the United States, like the Sun Belt cities, we're the capital of the South. Houston is, probably close to other our size and population. So is Dallas, but if you think about Charlotte, a lot of people talk about, we need to compete with Charlotte. Charlotte's only 1.3 million people. We're well over 4.5, 5 million, depending on how you calculate it. They have a long way to go to catch up with us. One of the other things, this should really talk about some of how the economy is shifting in the region. This was foreclosures in the region as a whole in 2007. We can now, really accurately track foreclosures pretty at a good scale. Areas in red are bad, just to help you on that. In 2010, you can really see how foreclosures really have shifted throughout the whole region. And this would be 2012, and you can see it's getting better. I just looked up the unemployment rate for Douglasville. It's around 8.2. That's the lowest since about 2008. So, you know, the economy is shifting as a whole for the region. To kind of get some feedback on, you know, the city of Douglasville, you know, you were started as a very, you know, small, you know, small county seat on the western side of the region. But, you know, over the last 10, 20 years, you have grown rapidly through either annexations, but also growing, filling in some key areas. Just looking at population-wise, you're a pretty young city as a whole. Just looking at, you know, the areas in green and purple are people under the age of 30. And you can see about half of your population is under the age of 30. The other half is over 30. And then the dark red at the very bottom, that would be 65 and older. Looking at race, you're a very diverse city, both with whites, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and other is everything from Hispanic, or not Hispanic, it would be Pacific Islanders to American Indians, that category. Looking at, you know, compared to the rest of the region, you're below average on your industrial market vacancies, and you're slightly above average on your office and retail vacancies. So you're pretty well just equal to the region. How the region goes is how, you know, the city of Douglasville goes. Looking at where, you know, your workers live, for those of you who's been through the comp plan process, this should be familiar. 16,000 people commute into the city of Douglasville each day. That's a lot of people commuting in. 9,000 people commute out, and about 1,000 people live and work within the city of Douglasville. And this is the actual city limits. So this is where all those workers in Douglasville, this is where they live, primarily Douglas County. But where your residents work, that 9,000 people, you know, it's, you know, Douglasville and the surrounding areas, but it's also areas like Cumberland, Midtown, downtown, and the airport. You have a few people who go up to North Fulton, a few people who go in Gwinnett, but really that downtown connector is where most of your residents work. And you could probably, you know, knowing your friends and neighbors, kind of correlate this. Looking at, you know, your employment population, your largest sector is really accommodation, or is retail trade. And then healthcare is also a large sector. Education with the schools, obviously. Accommodation and food service, and other is every other job category, from lawyers to professors to people who work for the city of Douglasville, the sheriff's department, all of that. So that's a large chunk is actually under retail trade. And then to look at congestion, relatively, and this is relative, that your congestion compared to the rest of the region is pretty good. And that's relative. No one likes to be stuck in congestion. But you can see, you know, that some of the key areas are heading into downtown Douglasville. Some projects, you know, with the new 92 bypass, that may probably have some improvements for that type of area. So working through the comprehensive planning process, we asked the residents of Douglasville, what are some of the key assets that you want to build upon? And this is very familiar for those of you who went through the process. Arbor Place Mall, location, that was the number one thing we heard. Infrastructure, being close to the airport, having this great conference center downtown, the recreation opportunities, and Sweetwater Creek. These are some of the challenges that, you know, the committee really discussed. Transportation, young people, homeless, business growth. So, you know, when you're thinking about some of your projects and going forward, try to keep some of these in mind. And we kind of boiled all these down to some really key things, what we call assets of the city of Douglasville. And these are things to be improved upon over time. One is you have a great location I already talked about. You have I-20. You know, having an interstate is a big deal. There's other communities in the region that would love to have an interstate like you have. You also have good state highways connecting to Douglasville. And you also have a good rail infrastructure, and having an intermodal yard nearby does provide some opportunities for future business. You have some great natural and economic amenities. You have Sweetwater State Park, just outside the city limits. You have airports, and you have some great infrastructure, and not only water and sewer, but also, you know, you have now free Wi-Fi in the downtown area. You have great medical services. You have a hospital within your city limits, really close to downtown. And having a hospital is also your fastest growing sector. Medical is within Douglas County. That ARC projects it'll be the fastest growing sector of jobs by 2040. So having the hospital definitely will provide a good anchor. You also have Arbor Place Mall. It's actually competitively really good compared to other malls in the region. Like, has a very high occupancy rate compared to the other malls like Cumberland or Perimeter. And vacancy is pretty stable. And you also have the downtown area. ARC has also contributed $3 million for funds for streetscapes improvements around the area. Michelle could talk a lot about that because she's been working hard to get more funds. And we've, not including the conference center, working with Douglasville staff, estimate that there's been about 36,000 square feet of new development within that downtown, what we call your livable centers initiative area. Some of these are the challenges that we worked through during the comprehensive planning process. And these are some things that the comp plan is trying to address. One is workforce development, having a good educated workforce. Two is business development. This would be your opportunity zone area that DCA can talk about a little bit, maybe. But this provides state tax credits for people who are opening new jobs within this area within Douglasville. And transportation, congestion, trying to attract new businesses, and transportation is always going to be an issue, but also public transportation, connecting people to downtown and throughout the city as well. And an aging population. This was the one that really surprised me. When we did a survey at the county level, and we asked residents in Douglas County, when they can no longer drive, how do they expect to get around? 63% of adults says they expect to be driven by others, but they didn't define who the others were. 6% said they use public transportation. 10% plan to find some other means, and 21% say they do not know how they're going to get around. So that's going to be an interesting challenge, that if a fifth of the older adults, when they can no longer drive, they don't know how they're going to be able to get to medical care or pharmacies or groceries, that sort of thing. We also talked about some opportunities you have downtown, the former jail site. And we also asked people, where is their favorite place in the city? And all those little green dots represent, someone in the whole city saying where's their favorite place, and the downtown area actually got the most stickers, so you should feel good about that. But we also said, where would you like to see improvements? The downtown area also got the most stickers. And there was a lot of people there from Tributary, so that's why there's a lot of stickers down there too. And so with that, I'll take any questions you may have. I know I went through this kind of quick, but you guys have a big agenda to go through. So with that, I'll take any questions, or you can continue eating.
Can you back up a couple of slides?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you said that's an opportunity, are there any discussions about what to do with it yet that are promising?
during the comprehensive planning process, we discussed, one of the needs was really to have a boutique hotel in the downtown area, because you have this great conference center, but it's hard to attract people to stay down here. But we didn't go into much detail about the opportunities that, it's just one of the things that the city should really try to look at and market in the future. And Michelle or Mr. Mayor, if I'd said anything, if you want to add anything about that? Okay,
No, there's support.
okay. All right. Thank you very much. And Allison and I, my coworker Allison, will be here throughout the night. So if you have any other questions, just please let us know. All right, thank you.
Before we go any further, if we can do introductions, that would be really helpful to our facilitator. If we could start with Allison here.
Sure. My name is, good evening, my name is Allison Duncan. I'm with the Atlanta Regional Commission. I'm very glad to be here this evening.
Hi, I'm Jared, but you just heard me talk a lot, so.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mary Moss, I'm the DDA and manager of the Irish Red Cross.
Barry.
Barry Oliver, I'm on the DDA also.
I'm Jan Weeks. I'm Keep Douglasville Beautiful Journey. Oh, Julie Camp on Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board.
Bob Carpenter on Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board.
Jack Kaiser, property owner, business owner.
Harvey Persons, mayor, and I'd like to just thank everybody for being here. I think this is a great turnout, and it's great to see that it involves some people that want to come and be a part of planning, strategic planning for the downtown area. So thank you all for being here and taking the time. Michael Gerald, on the board, Douglasville Beautiful.
Terry Miller, Architecture and Planning.
Michelle Wright, Planning Director for the City of Douglasville.
Paul Lassiter on the Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board as well.
Larry Yack, Mayor Pro Tem, also Chairman of the DDA Development Authority.
Bill Osmond, City Manager.
Mark Adams, City Council.
Carl Folks, City Council.
Jeff Jones, Executive Director of the City of Douglasville Development Authority.
Sam Davis, City Council.
Sybil Slade, Community Economic Development with the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, and a Douglasville resident.
Kittle Slade, just a resident of Douglasville.
John.
I'm John Snell with George Power, and on the Douglasville Development Authority, and on the resource, or whatever we call ourselves, the economic.
Restructuring Committee.
Yeah, that one. Economic Restructuring Committee, the DDA.
I'm Donna Cox, and I work downtown Douglasville, and I'm a resident.
Earl White, business owner and a resident.
Andy Blaze Wilson with Bank of North Georgia's office here on Church Street, and also a Douglasville City resident.
Francis Matt, business owner, right here on the corner of Broad Street. Rashida Hicks, business owner and resident.
I'm David McGinnis with Habitat for Humanity.
Scott Embry, Douglas County, Douglasville DDA and resident.
Chris Edgecott, Town and Country Upholstery and DDA Board.
Daniel and Marlene Heineman, just a resident and future business owners.
Chris Kirby, I'm with Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board.
Michelle Clark, DDA board member.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, I'd like to reiterate that I appreciate you all coming out tonight, and now we have my friend Jessica. Hey, guys. First off, let me say thank you for having me. My name is Jessica Reynolds, and I am the Communications and Training Coordinator with the Office of Downtown Development. Basically, that's just kind of a long way of saying that I'm involved with the Georgia Main Street program. To give you a little bit of history about myself, I'm actually a neighbor. I live in Carrollton. I was the Main Street Director there for 5 years before taking a position with DCA last year at the end of February. So I've been with DCA about a year. I have Main Street experience. I have local government experience. My family owns a small business. They actually own a small business here in downtown Douglasville. They just opened it up a couple months ago. So let's just say that we're going to go through a lot of stuff tonight. I'm one of those people, I like feedback, I like engagement. Hearing from you guys is gonna kind of help steer the direction of our conversations and, really help your peers and your other associates in the room find out what's important to you and what should really be the focus for this calendar year. So let's get started. Why is downtown important? I think, we all know that downtown is important, and sometimes it's kind of hard to put your thumb on why it's important. But typically, throughout the state, downtowns have the highest concentration of small businesses. Those small independent businesses that really carve out that unique niche in your community. Everywhere has a McDonald's, but not everywhere has a Gumbo's. Everywhere wishes they had a Gumbo's, but not everybody has one. It's also the sense of place that is, defining your community. There's so much history and heritage that you have to offer. And so when that starts to fade away, that sense of place and the sense of importance tends to fade away with it. It's where you'll tend to see the largest amount of public investment. And I will tell you, and I'm sure Georgia Power will tell you, and a lot of other people who work with the state as far as trying to get new businesses into communities, they'll tell you that looking at the downtown is a yardstick for measuring the success of that community. It is important. Even if the business isn't locating downtown, it's important that the downtown looks good, is vibrant, has something going on, because that says a lot about the community and a lot about where they put their value. So DCA's approach to downtown development, we have a tiered service approach. We believe that every community, no matter how big or how small, should be able to have access to us and our resources to help improve themselves. And what that means is that we're not saying that Douglasville needs to be like Covington or needs to be like Woodstock or anybody else. We just want to help make you guys the best possible version of Douglasville. Because when you start trying to compare yourselves to other communities, you're always going to feel like you're coming up short. Because really, we just got to focus on us here. So what do we do at DCA? It would probably be easier if I put what we don't do as far as helping out people when it comes to downtown stuff. I do things like what I'm doing here tonight, strategic planning sessions, helping you guys come in and narrow down what your focus is. Work plan development, we can help with branding, we can help with facade grants and design and streetscape plans. The Regional Commission is great when it comes to master planning and helping people walk through that process. Partnership development, sometimes we can be your therapist. We can hold your hand, we can walk you through a process. And the thing is that it's not always us that is actually, coming out and helping and assisting, but sometimes we're just that person that can put you in touch with the right other people to help you move forward in the projects that you're working on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Main Street program. I know that we have a lot of people here from the Development Authority, and sometimes we get that question like, well, what's the difference between a Development Authority and what's the difference between the Main Street program? So the City of Douglasville is a certified classic Main Street program. Every single year, they have to be reaccredited to be able to call themselves a classic Main Street program. There is a state accreditation process that they have to meet. There's 10 national standards that we have to have them check off, and then they are certified by the National Main Street Center. So it is quite a lengthy process. It is an honor to be called a classic Main Street program. And a lot of work goes into that from a lot of different people. We always like to say that Main Street isn't a person, it's a movement. It takes a lot of people to make this process happen and to come together. So with the Main Street program, we pride ourselves in working on a 4-point approach, which we think when these 4 things come together in harmony and balance, that great downtown development happens. And so those 4 things are organization, design, promotions, and economic restructuring. We also call it economic development because everybody kind of understands that term a little bit better. I'll dive into them each a little bit, but I don't want to get too into the weeds. When I'm saying organization, I'm not just saying that, okay, when I have an event, I've got, my I's dotted and my T's crossed. What I'm talking about is good training, good board development, making sure that we have a mission and vision statement, making sure that we have a good comprehensive work plan, that we're not just putting stuff down on paper, that we're actually looking at what we want to achieve and trying to figure out what are some manageable tasks and goals that we can achieve to get us to this point. So many communities sit there year after year and have the same 5 things they want to work on and then are wondering why they're never moving forward on them. You have to break it down into these manageable, bite-sized portions and see how you can move forward with it. And if something's not feasible, then, half the battle is just trying to realize that and then pushing it aside so that you can, make room for other opportunities. Design. It's not just about what a building looks like on the outside, but it's also about how the downtown feels as a comprehensive whole. Do you feel safe when you're downtown? Are there nice lighting? Do you have somewhere to park? Is it a pretty place to park? Is it a gravel road? What is that like? So design is really, it's not just about the downtown, but it's about how the whole downtown feels together, how it looks together. Are we preserving our history and heritage? And also we've really asked people to expand that vision of downtown, because while you may have a district and a boundary, most people have to pass through other things to get there. So that area that you're passing through is just as important as the destination at the end. Because if they're driving through somewhere that they're not comfortable, if it's all, worn down and dilapidated, they may not get to that destination. They may not get to the downtown. So we encourage people to look at those areas surrounding their downtown. How can they help? How can they support those areas? Promotions. This is one of my favorite areas, and it's also one of the most misunderstood areas, because everybody thinks promotions is just parties and events, in which it is, a huge portion of it is. But what I like to remind everybody is that promotions is also about representing the program and identifying that brand, and also identifying a brand for your downtown. So creating an identity for it, creating a brand for your downtown that you can market and then sell to help promote tourism, and even to encourage your locals to reinvest and visit, the downtown area. Economic development. That's kind of the one that everybody thinks they know about. And it's easy and hard all at the same time. It's understanding the different tools and resources that are out there and available for you to use as business owners, as property owners, as someone who's looking to open a new business. And it's trying to figure out how we can make this work. How can we, as a community, as a city, come together and offer different incentives to not only encourage new business, but what incentives can we offer to help sustain the businesses that are currently there? So many times we focus on the new businesses and bringing those in that we kind of forget about the people that have been there for 20 or 30 years, and how important it is to have a stable business that is already contributing and being able to help them be successful and grow. It's so much more important to keep those guys there than to focus on bringing in someone new and to lose two of your existing businesses. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. I'll talk a little bit about the history of the Georgia Main Street program. So our program started in 1980, so we're 35 years old this year. We have over 100 programs that are certified classic programs, and we have 20 new programs or communities that are in our startup process and will be accredited Main Street communities in January of next year. Since 1980, all of our combined programs across the state have had a $3 billion impact, created over 58,000 net new jobs. And just this year alone, we've created, or I would say this year alone, but it's actually our statistics from last year. So in 2013, all of our Georgia Main Street programs combined created 4,000 net new jobs. And that net number is important because it means we're acknowledging the new jobs that we've created and also acknowledging the jobs that we lost. So this is our net. We've had 370 building rehabs. We've had 4.2 million people come to events that are hosted in downtowns. And I will tell you that each year, that number just keeps growing and growing. And we've seen over $230 million in private and public investments in downtowns across the state. These numbers, I'm excited because they're the highest as far as investment in the past 10 years, and it's also the lowest as far as business closings and losses. So this just shows us that the economy is getting back on track, even though we don't always feel that it is. We're seeing in the numbers that it actually is. This is one of my favorite little, it's like, I don't know what you would call it, a slogan, catchphrase, I don't know, tagline. The 117. So what's that stand for? It means every day in the state of Georgia, in Georgia's downtowns, we see one net new business open, we see one completed building rehab, and we have 7 net new jobs created. That's based off of our statistical information. So it's just something interesting. You can keep with you, put it in your pocket. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Douglasville impact before we get into the work plan. I think, I'm kind of a numbers girl too. I like to see what we have to offer and where we have to go. So I pulled these numbers. We actually require all of our Main Street programs to provide monthly reports to us as an agency. And we take those numbers and I can compile it. We go back as far as 10 years as far as our online reporting, so that's the easiest for me to pull. So I pulled these numbers for Douglasville this morning. In the past 10 years, you guys have had a $34.7 million private and public investment impact in the downtown, $2 million in public improvement projects. And by the way, I will disclaimer, these numbers may be lower than in actuality because it's just what is reported to us. You've had 69 net new businesses opening. You've had 507 net new jobs created. And you've seen $32 million in building rehab projects, which let me tell you, that is huge. That's great. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this work plan that I was given, and this is kind of, this was something that was put together by the DDA for 2013-2014 strategic goals and work plans, and it's broken down by the 4 points. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the points and kind of see what's on the list. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see, is this working? Is this not working? Do we like it? Is this something we really need to ixnay? Or is this something that needs to be developed more? So we're going to go through piece by piece. This is where that engagement part comes in handy, because otherwise it's just me up here talking to myself, and I'm from Carrollton, so, I'm just going to start telling you, what we used to do in Carrollton if nobody contributes to the conversation. So, so we'll get started. Okay, for organization, point number 1, look how on task we are. Organize and host the strategic planning session. Wow. Good job, guys. What do you guys think about this? I hope you find it helpful. We encourage all of our communities to do something like this every year. I will say, everybody does it in different times and different ways, so I think you got to find out what's right for you. And judging by the crowd in this room, I think the time seems to be working good. The only thing that I would say is it's great to hear sometimes from the people who can't always make it to the meetings. And, people have families, kids, other commitments. You guys are at work all day. It's not always easy to get here. So maybe, taking some questionnaire or, getting some feedback, creating a survey, something like that could be distributed to all the businesses downtown, both a paper version and an online version, to kind of, see where everybody's head's at. Maybe that's something that would, maybe be beneficial in the future. Are we yay, nay, interested in that? No, not interested in that? Sound like something y'all would like to do? All right. You got to speak up because Patrice is taking notes for me, so. Okay, our second point, organize a business coalition and present bid information. Does everybody know what a bid is in this room? A bid stands for Business Improvement District. Patrice, do you have a bid in place? Are you interested in having a business improvement district in place? Okay. Would everybody like to know a little bit more about a business improvement district? Okay. So what it is in the most, I guess, simplest of terms, is the collective paying in to help support the whole. So funds used with the business improvement district can go towards streetscape projects, events, different things like that. And it's usually, money that is paid in from the businesses themselves. I believe it takes a local act to pass it, so the council and mayor would have to, institute something like this. They'd have to have a certain percentage of businesses that would want to agree to it. You would have to define terms as far as what you would want that money to go towards. If you have areas that you want to work on and you need money to do it, and you guys want to invest as business and property owners, this would be the way to kind of achieve it. It's not easy to do, but when it's done right, it can be very successful, and it can really help afford you the financial opportunities to explore other avenues.
Jessica, what's the difference between a business improvement district and a community improvement district for CIDs?
A business improvement district, I believe, is a tax, where a community improvement district is like it's from the property tax versus like a sales tax.
has more to do with exactly where the money comes from.
Okay.
BID comes from the business.
From the businesses themselves.
Do you have any inspiration from communities where BID does actually work and work well?
Oh, Rome. Rome is a great example. They've had a BID in place for years and have been very successful with it. Between that and kind of regulating and controlling their parking downtown, they're pretty much financially independent of the city, which is really great for them. They're able to do a lot of projects. The Development Authority is, had a lot of freedom as far as buying properties, renovating them, turning them over, getting the right person in there to rent and own. I would say, Rome is probably the best example of a BID really, really working. But I think it's one of those things that it can definitely work and it can definitely be successful, but you kind of have to have an idea of how you want to use it, You got to have an idea of what you want to raise these funds for. What's it going towards? What's that impact going to make? Because when you're trying to get everybody involved and on board, you got to have an image to sell. You got to have something that they can buy in and believe in. If you're like, well, I'm just raising money, we don't know what it's exactly for, but we're going to do something with it. It's really hard to get people to give that up, especially when, if you're trying to decide between keeping the lights on and paying your employees, you may not have that extra money to give up.
Let me ask you a question, Jessica. Maybe
Yes.
this may be the place to ask it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing you say really is, where are we going with this? We talk about CIDs or bids, or planning or whatnot, but initially, what's the vision?
Exactly.
Long-term plan,
Yes.
goals and objectives?
Yes.
And this is me, but before you do some of this, it would appear that there needs to be
A discussion.
a vision, a goal, a long-term objective, and the things that are impacting our community and the things that will impact our community, and how are those gonna affect where we're going?
I
And to
completely,
me,
yes,
if you don't
yes.
know, if you don't have a plan, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have a plan to get there, what are you doing?
Exactly.
So-
I completely agree. It's one of those things that it's on here, but it's such a bigger conversation than just this one meeting today. And it's like you're saying, Mr. Mayor, you really do have to have a vision. You really have to have an idea of what you want to see happen in the downtown and how this money could really help achieve that.
You keep saying you. Who is you? Does that refer to?
I'm talking about the community, the downtown, everybody that would be participating or contributing to this, because this isn't a one-person, goal. This is a community goal. So when I say you, I'm talking about
So if the businesses are
the
the ones that
businesses.
are contributing the most to it, then don't you think that the consensus and planning would have to do more with them than what the community and what the city wants?
Let me ask you a question.
I think,
Is the planning being done for the businesses, or is the planning and the goal and the vision for where the overall community sees itself going and what it wants to see? To me, it's got to be a combination.
that's what I was going to say.
The businesses and the community that's affected. Because if you develop a plan that specifically addresses a certain group or a certain group of people with the exclusion of the community as a whole, several things happen. You don't get buy-in, you don't get participation, and then you have a select or a certain group trying to accomplish a certain set of goals that affects just them, but not the community as a whole. That's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
what's the vision, what's the goal, what's the objective?
And my, in response to your statement, while it is the businesses contributing, I think, and from what I've seen, the communities that are most successful with these type of things, they have a good relationship with the city. Because when you have that city support, it just helps push everything forward.
And I think the DDA can facilitate some of that, and where we can get the business leaders together that are from the downtown area and say, what is it? What is it that is making you stay here, or what will make you stay here? Okay, and so that's what I think we need to get the business, the people here that have businesses in the downtown area saying, what is it that the downtown is missing? What would you see? What would you like to see differently?
And definitely, and just how, you know, a local government uses their city council, you know, and the different, you know, city council representatives. So, you know, I live in this district, I talk to this representative. A business owner should also use the DDA as, you know, their conduit to kind of help communicate what their personal initiatives are. And then the DDA can look at stuff and say, okay, so we've heard this, we've heard this, we've heard this. How can we look at this as a whole for the whole downtown and figure out what's gonna work best for everybody? Put their personal interests aside, what's personally gonna benefit them, and say, how can we make this work for the most people? How can we make this impact everybody in the most positive way? And that's hard. It's hard when you have a business downtown and you're part of the equation, but that's what these people hopefully are appointed to do.
But a part of that engagement is engaging your community.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you establish business or if you establish a district in an area, but nobody comes to it and nobody participates in it because it's not what they wanted or needed, then you have a business that's there, but you don't have a community that supports it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's a participatory thing with the businesses, the government,
And the community, the greater community.
Oh, because the government's not gonna succeed by itself, businesses won't succeed by itself, and a community doesn't succeed. The way it works is that engagement by all parties that are affected, and through that joint effort of working together, that's how you become successful with any business venture, and that's what this is a business venture.
Definitely. Yes.
Jessica, I just want to throw out there that in the Metro Atlanta region, one of the unique tools you have is LCI, is a program to kind of consider some of this visioning and small area planning. And so there are a couple of communities that come to mind, like McDonough and Stone Mountain in particular, that have used LCI as kind of a small area study to think about some of these areas, and they've organized around kind of the Main Street 4-point approach in considering some of these things. So I just want to kind of throw that out there as you're discussing these things, that there are other communities that have used kind of a hybrid Main Street and LCI to think of exactly what you're talking about.
And along that line, what you're talking about is some of the communities, I think the Georgia Cities Foundation, working with the Carl Vincent Institute, is doing some of this. As a matter of fact, they've got a pilot program going, I believe, that's helping communities and cities do just what we're talking about.
Just what we're talking about.
I think they've got 18 engaged in it now. I believe they're looking for 6 cities to participate in it this year. And it's a pilot program that's, the whole process is just what we're talking about doing.
Yes, and they come down and they facilitate several town hall meetings, and what they'll do is kind of like what I'm doing today, gather feedback, analyze that data, and then make recommendations to the community as a whole, to the, you know, the Downtown Development Authority, to the city, as far as what plan should be implemented and how that whole process should look.
And how you engage the community.
Exactly, exactly, yes.
Is there, in your studying of different communities throughout the state, is there a qualitative or quantitative difference you notice between what I would perceive as 2 different types of municipalities? There's, like you mentioned, the success in Rome, which is a community that sort of has state, because of its geographic location, it stands on its own, versus, say, the cities that are closer into Atlanta that are kind of in the shadow of the metropolitan area, in terms of getting people to buy into programs and promotions and so forth, because your statistics should bear out, you suddenly have 16,000 people that leave Douglasville every day. There was some survey, I always cited a number of years ago when they asked, there was a question, who's the mayor of Douglasville? People thought it was Shirley Franklin. So, it's hard to, everybody knew it. But
I don't have hair, she does.
But you know, getting people to identify with the community, when you have a huge portion of the community outside the community, you know, basically being the traditional bedroom community, have you noticed some sort of qualitative and quantitative differences between the 2 types of communities that you have to deal with?
That's a really good question. And I would say that there's not one thing you can put your hand on and say, this is it, because everybody is so different and everybody has something different to offer. But I will say
that the ones that I see that are most successful, no matter where you are, whether you're in the outskirts of middle Georgia somewhere, or whether you're even downtown Decatur, a lot of it comes down to not only what you have, but how you market and brand yourself. And I kind of come back to that because, you know, you can have something great to offer, but if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to come to it. Even if you have people in your community who would love to take advantage of it. So really being able to identify your community's assets or your downtown's assets and being realistic about that. If you have a lot of restaurants, market yourselves as a restaurant destination. We go here, we have all these unique culinary experiences. If you have a lot of antique stores, then market that. You have to find your niche. So many people want to fight against their niche. And, you know, well, I don't want this many, or I don't want this, or I don't want that. Well, that's what you have, you know. So you can either embrace it and try and make something good out of it and bring in people who, you know, appeal to that market, or you can fight against it and, you know, lose the battle. And, you know, we're seeing this huge shift on a national level that people are commuting in, but when they come home, they don't want to go out again. You know, they want to stay here. They don't want to have to, you know, I drove all the way into Atlanta. I drove all the way back home today. I don't want to drive another 30, 40 minutes somewhere to go get dinner. I just want to hop down the road. I want to have that familiarity. I want to have that cheers feeling where you go in and everybody knows your name. And, you know, you have that sense of place. You have that sense of home, even if you're not in your home. And so that's what we're trying to create for people, that experience, that I feel home even if I'm not at home because I'm here in the downtown. Does that make sense?
What you're talking about, to your point, and that's an excellent point, but I think it's like whether it be business or building a building. When you're designing a building, there's certain basics that you use, that those principles are unique to any building that you build. But you've got to find the particular characteristics and the particular design that meets the need of your customer, and then you work around that. If you design a traditional building for them, and they're looking for non-traditional, you're not meeting those needs. And to me, that's what I think we're talking about here. The process itself, done right, is pretty much the same for each individual community if it's done right, as far as goals and planning and visioning and organization and structure, that type of thing. But it's, once you have that process, the individual plans are unique to each individual community based on that community's wants, desires, needs, and that's what you got to help find and identify. And that's why I say that it's important, I think, to engage the community, the community, the business, the government, and then it becomes unique to your particular community.
Well, and you're right, because it is a holistic approach. It really does take everybody, because you may have the vacant spot that is perfect for this restaurant, but if the city makes it impossible for someone to get a license or to get their permitting or to move forward with construction, you're going to lose that business to someone who's willing to offer them incentives, get them in there, you know, make it easy on them. I see so many communities that are filling up their storefronts because they're making it easy on the new incoming business owners. You know, we're going to give you this space. We're going to do tiered rent for the first 3 months. We're going to throw in advertising. We're going to give you seed money. We're going to waive your tap fees. We're going to waive your business license fee. You know, those are the people who really want new business coming in because they're offering those incentives and they're putting it out there. And that's something that, you know, the city can be involved in. That's something that the Development Authority can be involved in. That's even something that the individual business owners can be involved in. In Milledgeville, they've done something called the Boost program, where their members, the people who choose to participate, contribute $100 twice a year. And so they take that cumulative money and they provide a grant up to $1,000 for either a new business or a business that's wishing to expand, that's already an existing business in the downtown. Everybody who contributes money has a say as far as who gets the money awarded to them. So everybody has buy-in if they want to. Everybody gets to have a say if they want to. And it's a great way to support new businesses coming in and also to support the businesses that are already there and want to maybe carry a new line, maybe need a new sign, maybe need a little help just to get them through a tough time, but a business that you don't want to see go away. And that's just one of those amazing things that the downtown businesses have taken that initiative and put their money where their mouth is, basically, to help their neighbors succeed. Okay, so we're going to move on. Report to council on a biannual basis. Is that something, Larry, the Downtown Development Authority is already doing? We think this is really important. That's why I'm a big fan of our monthly reporting that we do, because we require, our programs to do this, and we ask for X, Y, and Z every single month. Well, it's great to just be able to turn that around and say, hey, we had this many new businesses open, we've had this many net new jobs created, we've seen this much investment in the downtown, and just let people know that something's happening all the time, because this program, the Main Street program, it's one of those things that it's not always obvious what's happening, but there's always something going on behind the scenes to make things move forward. So that communication is very key. All right, number 4, develop a fundraising program that is based on event sponsorship. Can anybody give me a little more feedback as far as what was the initial goal with this one? How many major events do you guys do as a program, a Main Street program? Not events that happen in the downtown, but events that the program actually does throughout the year. Does anybody know?
There's several that we do during the year, the hot rods.
The hot rods.
We partner with a lot of other groups as well, I should say. So there's something every other month, it seems, with the program.
Okay. I would say what my recommendation could be for that is that, it always takes multiple people to make things happen, but identifying the budget for it and then being open with the program and the merchants about are you making money on this? If you're making money, how much money is it? What are those funds going towards? Having something that you're raising the money for, identifying what that goal is or what the funds are going towards or being contributed to, usually gets more people involved, lets the businesses know what they're helping promote and support, and maybe you can identify, other needs where that money can go to. Just an example, in Carrollton, we used to have a facade grant program. It was something that, the city contributed to. It was $20,000 a year. It's not much, but it was great, good enough to get some projects started. Well, when times got tight, the city cut that. So what did we do? We took the funds raised with Taste of Carrollton and we put it towards creating our own facade grant program there. And by saying that that's what we were going to do, we got the buy-in from the merchants. They were like, hey, I've wanted this facade grant program back for several years. I need a new sign. I need a new awning. My building needs a fresh coat of paint. I'm going to help you promote this. We're going to make this bigger. We're going to get it out there. We got the schools involved. But by being able to identify what those funds were going towards and what our goal was, and, oh, hey, we raised $30,000 for this project. Now we have $30,000 in the bank that we can spend on facade grants. Let's identify, is it going to be matching? Is it, how are we going to do this? But they really felt ownership over that project, and that's where I would say, encouraging you to go with the current events that you do. If you're not sure, who's in charge of it or who's contributing money or how much money is even being raised, that's something that needs to be communicated with everybody. Develop a strong volunteer base and provide training and recognition. Volunteers, gosh, that's one of the hardest things to get people to spend their time, energy, and resources for a cause. And that's why I was saying it's so important to communicate what that cause is. And you have to get creative when it comes to volunteers. It's not just asking the same people every single time to do everything, because they can't. They're going to get burned out. They've already helped. You got to reach out to schools, different clubs and organizations, Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops, high schoolers, sometimes they need a little more guidance than other volunteers, but their heart can be in the right place. I will tell you that we would even donate a certain percentage of our proceeds for certain events to, the schools, and that always brought out the parents and their kids, because they're like, hey, if you're giving back to the schools, I'm going to give back to you, and I'm also going to help you get there. It's like when you do Spirit Night at Chick-fil-A or anything. Everybody comes out to support it because they know what it's going towards. I think sometimes just being able to identify those goals, really helps get everybody on the same page. Is there anything else under organization that we haven't talked about but that you guys would like to see? More training opportunities, more educational opportunities, maybe more open dialogue between the DDA and the merchants, maybe something like that. Yes.
I just think there needs to be a process for community input. I mean, it goes back to the mayor's point, none of this will survive without consumers or community supporting it. And just by the introductions in the room, and the things that are outlined here, I just don't see a process for community input.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome that you don't have that. Awesome that you're bringing it up. Awesome that you're bringing it up. Do you guys ever do like monthly merchant anything like that?
We do have the property owners meeting yearly. It comes up in April.
And some of these things, it's not even something that you have to wait for the Main Street program or the DDA to do. If business owners want to get together and talk about issues, I mean, that's something you guys can do on a monthly basis. Even just to get out and know your neighbor, you know. Sometimes we get so, you know, blinders on and focused on what we're doing, we forget to meet the person next door to us and see how we can work together and create those partnerships. Another thing that the program can do is even creating a Facebook group specifically for downtown business owners to be able to say, hey, I'm dealing with this issue. Has anybody else had this issue? And the DDA can get on there and say, hey, we're having a meeting here. We'd love you all to come and be involved and participate. Those easy avenues of communication, it's something that's very easy to set up, very easy to manage and maintain. There's almost little to no maintenance involved, but being able to have that outlet to be able to ask questions, find out what's going on, that, you know, one source of information can be very valuable. Any other suggestions? I mean, this is the time. Let's talk about it. The good, the bad, the ugly. All right. We'll move on to, yes.
I hate to be a broken record, but basically what, to me, strategic planning and goal setting is all about is developing a plan to be successful.
Yes.
And if you're going to develop a plan to be successful, at what? What's your goal? What's your objective? Short-term, long-term. You've got to identify what the goal is, what the objective is. You've got to identify where you're going. Used to teach business plans, and the analogy was, let's all get excited about something. whether it
We
be
don't know what
fishing
it is.
shop, whatever, run out and jump in the car and take off. Well, we've got 4 or 5 in the car. We get halfway down the road, and we find out we've got 4 different ideas on where we're going. So now, what do? Then we find out we're about a third of the way there. We didn't have a plan to get us where we thought we were going. So now we're out of gas, out of money, and we thought we were going in 4 different directions. So to me, that's what we used to teach with business planning. What's the goal? What's the objective? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? And then you engage your customer base or your client base and the people then that are going to help you be successful in getting where you're going. And to me, that's what the long-term strategic plan, the goals would be for the downtown development area. Because what we want to do is see the downtown be successful, to thrive, to grow, all the businesses be successful. But what makes that happen? It's not just the businesses working within themselves to figure out what they need to do. At some point, you've got to engage your customers, your customer base, to find out what their needs are, and then you sell and create that environment that satisfies that needs and makes downtown a destination point for everybody. And if we do that with a goal and objective that does that, everybody succeeds, everybody wins. So.
And I think from what I hear, or from the few things that I've heard, you know, communication is key, and maybe the most important thing that needs to be focused on in organization. The businesses understanding their customer and their customer's needs, the Downtown Development Authority having open eyes and ears to the businesses that are existing and coming in, and then the city having open eyes and ears to what the Downtown Development Authority's concerns are. Does that make sense?
I agree. I think there definitely needs to be a hierarchy coming up from the business owners to the DDA to the city council.
And I think if we can establish that process, not like we have to do it right this second right here, but establishing a process for communication. That way people know when I have a concern, this is my first step. This is what I do. This is the process. This is how it's heard. This is how we take it up the chain of command. That way everybody feels like, you aren't just talking to the wall. You are having a voice. You are being heard.
But at what point do we engage the community that we're building the downtown for? Are we building and developing a downtown? And you gotta have businesses that are successful, but are we building a downtown area that exists either for the government or for the businesses? Or are we building it, it's kind of like the deal of, if we build it and we get it right, they'll come. And that's what we're looking to have happen.
Well, you have different outlets. You have town hall meetings, which is something that's a term that we use a lot, town hall meetings, for the community involvement, for people who aren't downtown business owners to be able to come and say their piece about downtown, what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to see, their vision, the community's vision for downtown. Then you have merchant meetings or downtown development authority meetings as an avenue for the business owners to be able to have their say as far as what they would like to see their vision for downtown to become, what they would like, how they would like it to evolve.
So who would host that convening? So who would host that connection point? Would it be the city?
The town hall meeting?
Okay,
Um,
seems like we're just kind of
Missing that.
outlining tactics and not really getting to responsibility or vision.
Yeah.
And so I think the more we can drill down
Sure,
on
yeah,
to
let's do it.
what's the
Yeah.
action step.
I say
and
for
who's
town hall
responsible.
meetings, it's great for the Downtown Development Authority to take that and kind of run with that carrot. It's important for the businesses to help educate the people that are coming into the stores. Hey, did you know this is coming on? I mean, you can do that with a flyer, you can do that with a table topper, you can do that with your email list to help say, hey, we want to know what your opinions are on downtown. You can even do that with a survey. You come in, hey, here's a 5-minute survey, enter to win, 25% off or downtown dollars or whatever you want to do to incentivize people's feedback and participation. But I think that's definitely something that the Downtown Development Authority can do. They can actually, the way I've seen it in other communities, the Main Street program can facilitate both. They can facilitate the town hall meeting for the community aspect, and they can also facilitate the business engagement side.
Let me ask you a question on these different groups, business groups.
Yes.
I know I've been to 2 or 3 meetings of the central business groups that has over 100 businesses involved. And 5 or 6 people or businesses represented at the meeting. How would you be able to get the businesses involved to come into the meetings and interwork with each other to build downtown? You can't build it with 5 or 6 businesses out of over 100 coming in.
You're right.
And I don't know how many groups we have like that are meeting.
Well, and from what I've seen, people want to have, the people holding the meeting want to have the meeting that's convenient for them, the time, the place, what works for them. And you really have to, put yourself in an uncomfortable position and be able to offer a meeting at a venue that is accessible to everybody, at a time that works for everybody. For example, when we had business meetings in Carrollton, we had them at, in the crack of dawn on a Monday before everybody got started and before their businesses were open, because that's what the businesses decided they wanted to do. Not because I wanted to get up at the crack of dawn and have a meeting that early on a Monday morning, but that's what the businesses decided. They said, this time works for us. We took a survey. They said, this is what works for us. This is the time. This is the place. This is when we can be there. This is when we can be involved. And we heard that and we responded to it. And I think that's important for whoever the coordinating, organization was, whether it's Development Authority or whether it's the Main Street program or whether it's both of them together in collaboration. But, first you have to put out those feelers and say, when is this going to work? If I have this and I'm asking you to be involved, when can you be involved? And getting that feedback is going to be that first step. and saying, okay, so we took this survey, this is when everybody says they can do this as far as the business side. When it's community, you kind of just have to have a free-for-all and pick a good time and promote it and hope people can come and be involved. But when it's a business, and when you're trying to get the businesses in the downtown involved, you have to do what is best for the group, the collective group.
So the small group has got to get off their backside and do something in the community to draw attention to
Yes.
the area in which they're concerned about. Can't just sit there every month and have 5 people.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I was gonna say also, the association for these business groups that he's speaking of, they can also survey their member. That's their job, is to be of service to the businesses who are part of their membership. So even if it's not face-to-face, because a lot of business owners don't have the time to take 2 hours out of their day because they're operating a business.
Yeah.
But if they're part of a group like he's speaking of, or association, the association should conduct a survey to get the feedback from the businesses and be able to provide it to the DDA, the city, or whomever. So there's several ways to get them involved.
One other thing, what you're talking about, and what I'm hearing is this planning process and the engagement, which is what makes it successful. But the Georgia Cities Foundation, in conjunction with Carl Vinson Institute, has a program in place already that's doing.
I was just thinking that.
What we're talking about, and what we're talking about here is drafting steering committees, surveys, volunteers, developing a plan, facilitation of all that. That process is already in place right now through DCA, through the Georgia Cities Foundation in conjunction with Carl Vinson Institute. There are 18 cities in Georgia that are already very heavily engaged in it, and it's working well. Some of them are Porterdale, Bainbridge, you're familiar with what's going on in Bainbridge, Porterdale's, they joke about it's a village. They say it really doesn't even need to be called a city, it needs to be called a village, because they only have a population of 2,000 people. But this past year, they got over $750,000 in grants for their downtown revitalization. So there's some processes that are already in place that some of the things we're talking about, public engagement, visioning, designing the plan, and they even have 10 UGA grad students that are working, doing their internships to help with this process and to help facilitate it all. So, not saying that that's where we want to go, but there are some cities already engaged in the process that we're talking about trying to get off the ground. And to me, that would be a great place to, help get some help, some input, some participation. It would help facilitate what.
Yeah.
what
If you're
trying to
looking
do.
for a third party to come in and help facilitate some of the stuff, town hall meetings, merchant meetings, meetings with the DDA and the city, that is definitely a good avenue to pursue.
And I'm a part of this city business association that
Okay.
he's talking about.
Okay.
And in years past, that group of people has been very supportive of the Downtown Development Authority
Okay.
and made contributions to their program. They would still like to do that. They would still do that,
But
but they need to feel like they're part,
want to feel like you have a voice.
have a voice. And I've been to some of those meetings, like if you want to close the road, you get the whole 100 people down there to that meeting. So if you come up with a good plan and sell that plan, the whole group will show up and support it.
Okay, so I'm hearing we need to have some town hall meetings. We need to have some merchant meetings, and then some open lines of dialogue and communication once the feedback has been received between the DDA and the city to help communicate what the issues are and how can we address these moving forward. And that's something you can either facilitate as a program or bring in an outside third party to help move that process forward. I am personally always in favor of bringing somebody from the outside. They lend a fresh perspective. They don't really have a dog in the fight you know, so they're not in the mix. They don't know the political issues or the landmines or whatever may be, you know, occurring at that moment. They can just look at it and hear it and interpret it for you.
With
So.
some current successes that have been ongoing that are very successful now, and from what I understand, they're looking for 6 additional cities to participate in the pilot program that they've got that helps facilitate this whole process.
Yeah.
And
I've
they've
seen
got
it done
the
in a,
experience of engaging the community,
yep,
engaging the businesses, coming up with, developing a vision and a plan, long-term, short-term, including short-term work plans to help you get to the long-term goals.
Yep. And we can put the Main Street program in touch with some of the communities that we've worked with through this process. Cedartown, just right down the street, has gone through it with a lot of success. They thought it was really great. They were kind of, I feel almost like where you guys are right now, you know, needing some more communication, needing more feedback, and not really sure what direction to go in to get there. And they were able to come in and help facilitate a lot of that for them, and it's been very productive with moving them forward.
Did you do the Whale Tuck up there? They, like you say, they've had some great successes.
They've had some great,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been very good for their community as a whole and for the downtown. Everybody has felt like they have a voice, which is very important. So we're gonna move on to promotions because time is a ticking. Some of these things, you know, it's on our list of, you know, for the work plan, organize and host the summer sampler. I was gonna say, what is a summer sampler? It sounds like a food event. Is that a food event?
It's a wine tasting.
Oh. And when is that?
How successful has that band? Has it raised money? And what have we done with the money? And then the other thing is I guess the bigger picture is the whole funding of the DDA. What's the structure? Is it city funded? Is it grant funded? Is it revenue funded from promotions and events? What is the overall look of that? Because I don't know that everybody
Understands that, yeah. And that's very important, understanding the structure of how things are funded. And like you said, the reason why we need to know that information about, was the event successful? How many people attended? What was the financial gain? Was there a loss? You know, if we made money, what did we make and how much did we make and what did we do with it? That's all important because that's gonna help you realize, do we need to be doing this event again? Did it work? Did anybody even come out for it? Are we spinning our wheels? Is this something that's gonna grow in popularity, or should we kind of cancel it and focus our efforts on something else that's working, or do something new that would bring more people or engage more people? But those are questions that need to be answered, and I can't answer them for you, but.
And that's a great point, because that strikes right at the core of what's the plan, what's the engagement. It's just like with a business plan. If you say, well, you're making money and we're getting a lot of money, well, that's great. Let me look at your P&L and see where you're going. Let me see what you're making, what your expenses are, what's your overhead, what's the accountability, where's the responsibility. And that's part of what this overall plan would be, with long-term and short-term goals and objectives. You assign accountability and responsibility, and then accountability for things like this. And then you have an overall reporting that everybody that's involved knows where the money's going, they know what's being accomplished, or if it is effective or it's not effective. And I think that's
And it's never too late to start doing that. And, you know, some things, if this is a DDA event that's even, you know, co-sponsored with other people, even doing a monthly communication where people who want to find out information can sign up for it and allow them an avenue to kind of go through their thought process and talk about what they're doing, talk about, you know, those sort of things. That's a great way for the DDA to be able to communicate that to the masses and address some of those issues. Because I think, you know, we can talk about, sure, these events are good or bad, but we have no real way of measuring them right now. We have no real way of analyzing them and saying, yes, this is something we should do in the future, or no, it's not. So I think it's great that we have so many DDA, you know, board members in the room tonight that can hear what we're saying and, you know, and take that information back, and then how can we move forward?
We get no funding.
We get no funding?
No funding. The city does not provide us any funding. I'm on the city council. We have no funding for the DDA. It's very similar to Keep Oak Street Beautiful, which receives no funding.
Okay.
And so the only funding that we get are from these couple of things that are on this list. I've been on the DDA now for a little over a year, and we sitting right here, she's the treasurer, Donna Cox. And Donna Cox, can you back me up on that?
I will, because I was wondering where this fundraising was going. We're lucky to break even.
That's correct.
How many events does the DDA hold just themselves without piggybacking on it with another community?
The summer sampler has been a favorite, and it was really successful the year we held it at the Les Jardins. There was plenty of parking for everyone. There was a great band. We ran out of food. Everybody hated us. But I think location is a huge draw. When we had it at the Arts Center, not so much. There was no parking. People had to go across the street and park at the high school.
Can you not do it here in the downtown?
That's what we're looking at doing
Well,
next year is at the
We're
plaza.
having it at the West Pines Golf Course, okay? And so it's plenty of parking, okay?
So that's an example of one.
But that one has been going on for some time.
Okay.
The other thing that we do that's not a fundraiser, but we have the facade grant that we give to a downtown business every year to assist them in making things more presentable.
I understand that there are things that you do.
We did the hot rod and hops, and that
Okay.
was Mary's idea, and she did a great job of pulling it together.
Okay, any other?
You have maybe 4 or 5 people who work in the DDA. So without the volunteers, and we are the downtown DDA, there is another DDA.
I think we're just trying to I think what I'm hearing is that like I said, an outsider, no idea, don't know how it works. Just trying to understand where the money's coming from. So if the DDA is not supported by the city, that means fundraising events are key. Is there any membership? Is membership come into play at all?
We also own a building that we were not able to turn over because of the economy, and we are renting it out.
Okay.
Now,
Right
we
next to
are renting
Domino's.
it out, and it
Building
is
right next to
doing
Domino's.
even,
Okay.
breaking
Okay.
even on it.
So other than the building that's breaking even and then the fundraising, is there any other way that the program is currently bringing in revenue? No. Okay.
So it's clearly something.
So it's clearly something that needs to be looked at.
Is it not being staffed by a city employee?
Yes, it is.
So the city is, in fact, supporting it through a staffer. Because that funding is not coming from the DDA, it's coming from the city, right?
Right, but
Okay.
we
I guess-
we can't sell Patrice.
There's a dollar amount
But there
there.
is a dollar amount attached to it.
Right, to the fact of the salary, how much, so,
But-
We do not have any funding.
right, no, I agree with that, but I'm just saying that there is support from the city in the fact that they're giving you a staff member.
Now, we did get some funding, I don't know where Stephanie got it from, but we did occasionally get some money from the city that I put into the bank account, but I don't know why or how, or maybe it was Main Street funds.
Donna, it was through vendors for different events that we would have.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I just know that I did get some money.
Yeah.
And I
It was a gift.
Some of these comments, and they're all good, valid comments, but some of these comments go back to the very core of what I said originally, of developing, and what we're talking about is we need a business plan. And with a business plan for the downtown area of, in the very core, most of you are business people, and I would venture to say, any of you that have been in business for any length of time and are successful, are gonna continue to be successful, you've got a business plan of some type. And that talks about addressing your market, your revenues, your expenses, accounting for where it goes, and then how you're going to continue to grow to overall reach that goal and objective that you're trying to attain.
I personally would like to see one meeting with all the different DDAs and saying, how can we help each other? What are you doing so I don't step on your toes? And maybe you can do something that's going to benefit us.
and that's
There
definitely.
needs to be communication.
And that's definitely something that the city can help, facilitate. And what I always recommend to communities is if you have multiple authorities or multiple boards that are all serving a similar area, having overlap, having someone sit on multiple boards allows that communication. So when you're in the meeting, you're like, well, I'm part of this board over here. You should know that this is going on. You should know that this is happening. Or even have a city representative or having someone like Patrice sitting in on multiple meetings so that she can represent that message to everybody so that there is some continuity.
I mean, both Keep Others for Beautiful has great ideas, and so does the DDA. We have great ideas, but when it comes to funding, there is none. So that's their biggest problem, is the funding.
Well, and I will tell you that this is a common story everywhere. You know, cities don't have the money that they used to just put into authorities. So people are having to get creative in how they fundraise. And it's not just doing events. Maybe it's membership based. Maybe you have a discount card for the downtown that you sell to community members to help drive them to come, you know, shop, eat, dine, visit, use their services downtown. And that can be, you know, an avenue for income. Sometimes it's knowing what you have to offer and bundling that together. I've seen in Macon, for a perfect example, they do this drive every year. It's a gift certificate drive, and you know the restaurants that they have there, you know, all pledge. You know, it's $25 gift certificate. They take the bundle, they sell it, you know, for half, and you know it's revenue that they can earn, and in return, you know. So I'm not explaining this very well. Okay.
Let me speak to the funding part, because the city does participate in a big way as it relates to downtown businesses and helping the downtown area be successful. We've got reports talking about how the city has invested in the Main Street program. The Main Street program, which is a program to help with downtown development, helps facilitate and create that environment to foster business growth and development. So the city does fund in a big way the fostering of downtown development and helping businesses grow. And that's done through taxpayer dollars to help those businesses. So is the city directly giving money to the DDA? First of all, there's an employee that's dedicated to that. But when you look at the Main Street program and the amount of monies that have been put, hard monies, into the downtown area, maybe not specifically through the DDA, but through Main Street and other programs, the city's made a huge contribution and continues to do that to the downtown area to help that community, that part of our city, be successful. And the city, and I think we've got, certainly we can't take a vote, but I think you'll find that every person in here, from the mayor, including all these council members, are pledged to support our downtown area and the business owners and help make it successful. Otherwise, let's see, I'm looking, we've got 1, 2, I saw 3, 4, we had 5 council members here at one time, and your mayor. So we're pledged to being supportive of this group and helping our downtown be successful. I think it's just a matter of the mechanics of how do we do that. But the way we do it and be successful with it is all of us pulling together, working together with common goals, common objectives, and a common vision of where we're going.
Absolutely.
I agree, we definitely got to work on the social lubricant. I mean, we got 2 gentlemen sitting right next to you that are a group of over 100 members that have said new pledges and failed. So I really think that we need to come together and really try to make this work.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And looking, the best way to get somewhere is to talk to somebody and look to somebody that's been there. If you want to be financially successful, do you go to a broke person and ask them how to get there, how to help you be financially successful? You go and ask somebody that's already been there, because they know how to get there and they can help you get there. And that's what I'm talking about with what's going on right now with the Georgia Cities Foundation, what's going on with the Carl Vinson Institute, and I can name you at least, well, there's 18 cities, I can name you 5 of them that have already been engaged in this process, and it's working. They figured out the visioning, the planning, and everything that's engaged to go with it. And then also, they're willing to help participate and help you get through that process. So that would be my suggestion. We're looking at where we want to go. Do we want to sit here and try to create a new wheel, or is there a wheel out there that's already working, and there are people that have already been engaged in the process we're engaged in right now, and they've already moved beyond that. So, like I said, this is just my suggestion, but that we would seek them out, engage them, and ask them, how do we run to catch up and get to where they are? And some of those questions that we're talking about have already been answered. They're beyond that, so.
Is that a DDA function? Is that a Main Street function? Is that a city function, or who goes and asks for that help?
Well, I say Main Street program in the context of if that is also the Downtown Development Authority in the community.
They're all engaged together, the Main Street.
But who is gonna go make the ask? Or
I think it's-
who's the decision makers that have to take a vote to say, we wanna go this route?
I think at that point, it's the Downtown Development Authority or the Main Street program. Here it's the same. But, the city's contributing. Even if it's not putting dollars in the account, it's contributing. So we'll take that and we'll move forward from there.
Larry, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm feeling like I'm in the wrong meeting because I was thinking about offering suggestions, not, I thought we had gotten below the umbrella part of it. Like Mike, if you just want an idea of what Mike's suggestion for downtown is, we've put in that beautiful, pedestrian pathway. We don't have a lot of pedestrians walking around downtown. So if we actually, I guess my question is, who is in charge of actually going out and seeking businesses, and who decides what businesses? Because in my mind, I would think, okay, Douglasville, we've got, several restaurants. Man, if we had a bookshop, if we had a gift shop, if we had a art gallery, or two, or three,
How about a theater?
A what? Well, or antique shops or something, because right now we keep talking about, Douglasville's a nice place to come to, but what do you do when you get here? The downtown museum is nice, it's really nice, except it's only open twice a week for half a day. But if people were actually coming downtown, if there were flowers, I know they get tired of hearing me say this, but I worked in Hakeville for a while, in summer, Hakeville is just covered in flowers. It's smaller, the downtown isn't much smaller, but, it's just beautiful to see. People would come down there and just walk around and look at the flowers. And while they're there, if there was a bookshop or your business is not something somebody would just walk in and look around, I guess.
You'd be surprised.
Well, they would, if they were, but I'm talking about like gift shops and antique shops where people actually just go in and browse, that kind of thing. So who is in charge of saying, okay, this is what we want, and especially the hotel?
Well,
We gotta have a hotel. Who's in charge of actually saying, this is what we need, let's go out and recruit?
Well, and I'll
Let's
speak
see
to that a
who's
little bit.
looking.
I would say, it's the Downtown Development Authority's prerogative to go out there and be in charge of trying to recruit business and working with the city to offer financial incentives to make it a desirable place for someone to come in and to locate to. But it's more than just saying this would be great or that would be great. It takes data market research to find out what can be sustained in your community, because everybody says, oh, I want this, or oh, I want that, but it's not always something that's feasible for your market and what you have to offer. And knowing that information and knowing what people are coming to your community for and what they're also leaving it for is very important. And that, I'm sure that's something that either ARC or the Small Business Development Center can help you find and identify. What is your niche? What are people looking for? Why are they leaving to go other places? Because identifying that's going to be the first step, and that's something that the DDA can work with those organizations on before they start going out there and recruiting and trying to decide what incentives they need to be offering.
And we also have a seed DDA also, that Jeff Knowles heads up. And that also facilitates, getting business into the city of Douglasville. And should help us also with getting businesses in the downtown area and knowing what is available. So we do have a partnership with the seed DDA. And so we are going to be getting with the Keep Douglasville Beautiful, the DDA is. And so we're going to team up, and again, it's all about funding. We have a lot of ideas, but like I said, I sat on those board, I'm the chairman of that board also, and it's all about so yes, both of us has, you know, someone from the city, on our boards, but again, it goes back to funding. And, that's the hardest part.
And I think, you know, for the DDA on their part, it's identifying what are some things that they want to do. What are some things you want to do is communicate it to them. They look at the whole and they say, okay, these are the top 3 things that we want to do, but it costs money. So how are we going to do that? Okay, well, these are the events we do and this is how much money we make. How can we do it better? How can we do it bigger? How can we get more sponsorships? How can we streamline the process? What can we change about it to make our revenue, you know, increase? You have to do that with each event that happens and occurs. And it's not always easy when you don't have continuity or when there's change in it and you're changing locations because you're trying to compare apples to oranges to bananas, you know, so kind of.
Downtown Development Authority's been strapped with this building that we were not part of about 10, 15 years ago. Whenever that we got this building, at the time they thought it was a great idea. It's not a great idea to own a building, okay? And it's because we have to maintain it. So the city does help us maintain that building, but we gotta have somebody in there too. We are in the process of selling it, and we're hoping that will happen in the near future. But that will be an albatross, I'm sorry, but that will be an albatross off of our backs at the DDA because that's where our money has to go. Any type of money that we get in, we have to help pay for that particular building in regards to electricity bill and water bill, and so that's where a lot of our money goes, is to help support that building that we don't want.
So I think for promotions, we've identified that we need to analyze where our past events have taken us to. What point are we at? Feasibly, financially, how has this all come together? And is this good for us to continue in the future? And then we've also heard understanding our market. You know, before we can go out there and try and advocate for businesses to come in, we have to understand what our market is, and then we also have to understand what we can offer them. And that's going to be something that the DDA and the city will have to work on together. Because it used to be that people were banging down the doors to come and, you know, do infill projects, and, you know, everybody wanted to come in and, you know, build buildings and apartments and relocate. And it's just not the reality anymore. People are going to go to the communities that offer them the best deal. It's just, you know, the math of it. So, you know, cities and downtown development authorities and Main Street programs have to be way more competitive in what they're offering new and coming businesses.
Can I mention or say one more thing about this?
Mm-hmm.
And we can beat this horse to death. It sounds like DDA is kind of the top of the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
The focusing and funneling things through them.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be the benefit of the city that the DDA would pull in some of these other groups for meetings?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And all of them have the same idea as to where they're going, how they're gonna get there, and what they want. And then the city will have to listen. Because then you've got a greater voice that's coming to the city.
Well, nobody has to do anything, but you
Well,
hope that.
Well, the city is the people. I'm
Yes,
gonna say that.
yes.
So, in one sense, yes, they do need to listen, and especially if it has something to do with the businesses and the community and the growth of both.
We like to say that, you know, no program can do it alone. You need stakeholders, you need people, other organizations that aren't necessarily even downtown, but are invested in the downtown, seeing it succeed and seeing the community develop as a whole. You want to hear what they have to say. So the DDA, and I'm sure that they are, but, you know, everybody sitting down, some of those people from the leaders of those different organizations at a table saying, how can we work together? How can we help each other? How can we move forward together on these initiatives? That's important. We would love to see something like that happen. Well, I'm getting the we got to start wrapping stuff up sign. So we haven't really had a chance to talk about design or economic development, but what I will say is when looking through the current plan, one of the things that stood out to me that I thought would be a great thing to focus on in the future is signage issues in the downtown, that include wayfinding and improvement of existing public signage. I will tell you that this is probably one of the most important things that your downtown or community can do. Providing a clear, labeled path to get you here is the most important, because we're all used to driving around and we're familiar with the area and we know how to get here a million different ways. But when you're a visitor and you're not from here, it's so easy to just kind of go through and, just keep driving. I'll tell you, I'm from South Florida, so when I moved up here and was going to school in Carrollton, someone told me, all right, you're going to get to the square and then you're going to hang a left. I didn't know what a square was. I didn't know what a historic downtown was. We don't really have those things in South Florida at all. And so I almost ended up in Alabama because I was just like, I don't know where to turn. And I finally had to call and get help. But we didn't have any signage. There was nothing that said, this is Adamson Square. This is the downtown district.
For me, and I tell you, just turn at where the old library used to be.
But signage... But signage is so important because, we have to think about the people that aren't familiar with the area. How do we get them here? I love that you guys have different colored signs for like the historic, neighborhoods around here. I think that's the coolest thing. I wish more people would do that because it really lets you know, hey, I'm in a historic district right here. It's like you're here, you see the signs are different, it's like boom, you recognize it. Parking signage, you have to realize that people from Atlanta, they're used to paying for parking. They don't know if it's free. They pull in and they're like, oh, do I have to go somewhere? Do I have to get a ticket? Do I have to look for a parking spot number and then run back and leave my thing on the dashboard? Indicating that parking is free. That's a really big deal. Indicating where they can park. I mean, I know you think it's kind of obvious, and you're like, well, we have parking in front of all of our restaurants and stores all the way up and down the strip. I'll tell you, as someone who's not from Douglasville, sometimes that's intimidating because I'm like, I don't know, can I fit next to that car? Can I not fit next to that car? Is that really a space, or is that supposed to be for people that are walking up and down the stairs right there? Like, can I park right there? Am I going to get towed? If I back up here, am I going to get hit by someone who can't see me because I drive a tiny car? So, I mean, you just have to sometimes take yourself and your personal views out of the situation and think, how would somebody else from somewhere else look at this? And signage and how you navigate the area, that's really important. And I think that's probably one of the best things that you could do for your downtown is just clear, concise signage. And that's something that, the DDA can work on. And I know that money is always an issue, but when you have a project and you can decide how much needs to be raised for it, you can get the community behind it. You can get the support that you need if you have a goal to work towards. You guys have a lot to offer. I mean, you really do. There's tons of, Main Street programs across the state that would love to be in the position that you're in as far as accessibility to the interstate and the metro area, but you're far enough away to be able to offer your own uniqueness, but it is what you're talking about. It is making it pretty and appealing. You want someone to drive, be driving on that bypass and be so compelled by what they see that they feel like they have to stop, or they feel guilty if they keep going, because it looks so appealing and desirable. But you also have to tell your story. Like the mayor was saying, cultural and heritage tourism is one of the driving industries in the state. It's not just about the store that's there now. It's about the history of how it got to that point. It's about what happened in your downtown in the past 100 years. How did it get to the point where it is? What important has happened here? And what can you tie into what you're doing currently? I mean, I've seen things like QR codes on buildings that talk about, have the pictures. You scan the QR code, you can see what the building used to look like. You can see the list of the businesses that it's been before. Talks about cool things that have happened in that location. Geocaching, which is location-based kind of scavenger hunt. Blackshear is a city down south, southeast, kind of in the middle of nowhere, 2,500 people. People come from all over the state to go geocaching there because nobody else is doing it and offering it. And they have these little trinkets in this scavenger hunt that you go through in their downtown and throughout their community. And people love it because nobody else is really doing it or capitalizing on it. There's different things like that the program and the DDA can help facilitate throughout the community, and that you guys can offer to your visitors and patrons that are coming. Hey, you're here? Well, go look at this, or go do this, or have fun in this activity, or did you know this about us? I love that on the pub's menu they talk a little bit about the history and stuff like that. I think that's so cool, and that's what people are looking for, because when you go to a McDonald's, you know, this building has been here, a year, you know. There's nothing they can really brag about, but you guys have stuff to brag about. It's just knowing how to do it and how to communicate it. And I'm sure that the chamber can work with you on that. I'm sure that the CVB here can work with you on that. Carving out your message and learning how to kind of brag about yourselves and talk about yourselves. And it's going to be more than just one conversation tonight. I mean, it sounds like you guys are right on the precipice of moving forward and doing some amazing stuff. We just have to kind of focus it down a little bit more. But, you know, we can work with the Main Street program to help get you guys in touch with the right people that can help facilitate some of this for you and move you guys in a more forward direction. Thank you. I'll be here if you have any questions.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all for coming out again tonight. As Jessica said, we have a lot of work to do, and you will be hearing from me with several suggestions that the DDA will have going forward. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. I look forward to working with each of you, and I also look forward to you volunteering, attending your meetings that we have scheduled. We'll be talking about that as well. As I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I've heard from several of you since I moved over into the Welcome Center. So you know how to reach me if you need to address anything with the city. I'm here. And as I said, I look forward to working with you. Larry, is there anything you want to add at this time?
No, I just say thank you all for coming, and you guys are beautiful. We'll be in touch.
Right, right. Mayor Persons, is there anything you want to add? There being no further comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.